I want to talk about the design flaws of the traditional keyboard. So the biggest problem with traditional keyboards is they end up overusing the weak pinky fingers for quite a lot, whereas they don't allow the thumb to be used for very much. For example, looking at the keys that the pinky fingers use, we have the outer column of keys here. We have the modifier keys such as Control and Windows. Some of the other keys such as Backspace, Enter, Shift, and Escape, and a couple of other symbol keys such as the tilde, the plus equals, and the backslash. Whereas looking at what keys the thumb gets to press when the hands are rested on home row, it's just the spacebar. And so I'd say the spacebar is perhaps the most significant bad design choice of traditional keyboards. Since ideally we want to use the thumbs much more than the pinky fingers, it's a real waste of space that the thumb doesn't get to push more keys with the hands rested on home row. I think any keyboard design would benefit by replacing a large spacebar with other keys such as backspace, escape, enter, or delete. And I think this example demonstrates just how impractical such a large keycap is. This is a keyboard where the number pad has been replaced with a rotary dial. And to continue the joke, the keyboard has a 10-unit keycap that's printed out and replaces all the keys on the number row just to make the keyboard harder to use. But if the spacebar was the only design problem with traditional keyboards, I think we'd see more keyboard layouts like this. So as well as the big spacebar, I'd say the second biggest design problem is that the keyboard is asymmetrical, even though our hands are symmetrical. I think some people look at this part of the keyboard and don't understand how this can be considered asymmetrical. But if we focus on just the letters that we use when typing, this is clearly asymmetrical. And just focusing on this subset of keys makes the difference that much more pronounced. The keys in the middle on the upper and lower row are very different distances from the home keys F and J. Or this example illustrates what a symmetrical row stagger would look like. But I don't think symmetry fixes the problem. I still don't like the row stagger. I would say an ortholinear grid makes the most sense as a default option for a keyboard. We see grids used on phones, calculators, and number pads. I've never seen a row stagger used anywhere else other than on keyboards. I've also seen columns of a keyboard be staggered, such as in this keyboard here. And I've seen some designs which will even splay the columns of the keys. That also seems good. But that's pretty much it in terms of design problems for the layout of keys on the traditional keyboard. Arguably also the hands are too close together and splitting the keyboard apart is a big improvement. Arguably also if you're using the mouse and keyboard, perhaps the numpad and navigation keys should be on the left-hand side rather than the right-hand side of the keyboard. But if you do want to get an ergonomic keyboard, there are some disadvantages to keep in mind. Since ergonomic keyboards are very different than the traditional keyboard layout, it can take some time to get used to, especially for people whose motor memory knows the physical location of the row stagger keys rather than a touch typing discipline where each finger sticks to one column. Ergonomic keyboards can be hard to find. They're either very expensive or require building and assembling yourself, which can be quite difficult. And ergonomic keyboards often have a key map that's more complicated than the traditional keyboard. Aside from ergonomic keyboards not being an easy drop-in replacement for traditional keyboards, there are some other reasons why these design flaws linger. Everyone's used to the traditional keyboard design. I don't know why the spacebar is so big. I think there's no good reason for that. But although you as an individual can get a good ergonomic keyboard, the market as a whole is unlikely to move away from traditional keyboards. Even among mechanical keyboard enthusiasts, it's still common to see big spacebars. I can understand big spacebars for those who don't spend much time or money on their keyboard, but I don't understand people who spend so much time or money on a keyboard and still end up with such a flawed design. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say about the design flaws of the traditional keyboard. the keyboard ends up using the weak pinky fingers much more frequently than the strong thumbs. The spacebar isn't practically big, and just other poor ergonomics such as an asymmetrical layout, a row stagger, and the hands being kept close together. Thanks for watching.